And I'm going to tell you 6 simple rules to get your emails more concise and get a response. Whenever you clap, I always like pulling aggressive. It's the loudest clap ever. I don't know if that translates over camera. It's so loud. Did that hurt you?
No, I just have long fingers, so there's more like
a surface area.
Bass in there.
They're so loud. Okay, so first things first, do not send a video of, don't do it again, of Richard Fowler clapping in your emails, because you will probably get a response, but it won't be the one you want.
That is true.
The first rule that you should use is use shorter sentences with super simple language.
Simple construction.
Yes, if you want someone to respond to you, they need to understand exactly what you're asking. And honestly, I think shorter sentences help a lot because they have each thought super concise, and then you can move on to the next thought.
Yeah, I don't know, I feel for some reason like when you got to middle school and high school, not really, high school and college, they really urged you to have these long, compound sentences, which a lot of times, I'm not a copy editor, but a lot of times they end up running into compounds, like run-on sentences.
And they screw you over every time.
So and it's something I'm learning, this is a new grammar thing that I'm learning, is where I'm like, well, that's a complete thought. Put a period. I know it feels uncomfortable because you want to put a comma, or you want to put a semicolon. Just put a period there. Yeah,
I feel like people run into that situation often, and honestly, it's hard to decipher between the two things, but if you're writing an email, use a period.
If you like it, then you should have put a period after it. Hey.
Seriously. Okay, so you should always include 1 to 3 questions in your email so that you're going to get a response, because if you're just telling people things, don't expect them to respond to you.
That's very true.
And if they have nothing to say back, then they might just not respond at all, and you might not know if they actually saw it or not. And I get into that issue a lot. I find myself always just like asking questions, but like weird, vague, like let me know at the end of something.
No, very declarative. Please. I tell people this all the time. Declaratives, and take off the I thinks.
Yeah.
The I thinks, and it makes a declarative statement. I think you look very pretty. You look very pretty.
You look pretty.
Declarative statements. Moving on.
Okay, make sure you include a subject line that is between 3 and 4 words long. So if you don't have a subject line, then they're probably going to be like, I don't need to read this, I don't care about this, and they need to get a quick summary in a short period of time so they can decide if they need to make that decision.
Uh-huh.
The next thing is use a slightly positive or slightly negative tone. Both outperform a completely neutral tone. So you want your reader to know exactly what you're trying to get out. If you're just unbiased and you don't really care about the topic, then they're probably not going to care that much about it either, and they're not going to respond to you.
No response.
Yeah. Okay, so our 5th one is take a stand.
Declarative statements.
Yes, and this goes directly alongside with the negative or positive tone. Have an opinion on what you're talking about, and don't just be objected to your whatever the subject is. Okay, finally, write enough, but not too much. Try to keep messages between 50 and 125 words, which is 125 words is probably about a little paragraph with in an email form, it's probably about 4 lines long. So
that's so true, because if your email is like 3 paragraphs, I stop reading after the first. I read the first paragraph and the last paragraph, figure out if I need to read the middle.
And honestly, people that separate their paragraphs, separate their thoughts, I love reading emails that way because it makes my life so much easier. It's hard to read an entire paragraph of text when you're looking at it on your phone.
And the other thing I would add to this before we move on is I like to do lists. Like, here's the things that we need.
Yeah.
Then I bullet point out we need, or here are 3 things that we need to discuss. Boom, boom, boom. Or here, like, so there's a lit, like, so you know, here's my 3 questions. Boom, boom, boom. Bullet form.
Yeah.
So you know what you're answering.
I agree. And
so they're not, like, caught up in the text.
I think another important thing to add to this list is to make sure they have all of the information they could possibly need from you in the initial email. So if you're telling them to look at something else, attach it. If you're telling them to look at a specific link, make sure it's hyperlinked.
Hyperlinked here.
Yeah, like don't leave them to have to wonder what's going on or send you a quick email back.
I love that.